Welcome, and thank you for joining me. On this episode, we'll be going through the history of the Memorial Hall building in Clark County, Springfield, Ohio. Whether it's constructed or born, everything around us eventually dies. Welcome to
DADDYGVILLE'S world.
On June 1st of 1916, on the corner of West Main and Lowry, the Clark County Memorial Hall building was completed. The building was also known as Springfield Memorial Hall and just as Veterans Memorial Hall. The building cost $262,000 to build, which would be over $6.3 million today, with an annual inflation of 3.15%, and was paid for by the sales of bonds and taxpayers. The building was designed by Frank Packard. Packard designed buildings all over Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia, like the Clay County Courthouse in West Virginia, the Capitol Hotel in Frankfort, Kentucky, which is now the bank, and the OSU Armory and Gymnasium destroyed by a fire and demolished in 1959. The Memorial Hall was built to commemorate the Clark County military and area pioneers. The auditorium seated 2,700 people and served as a venue for concerts, sports events, balls, graduations, political gatherings, meetings, trade shows, and vaudeville acts. When people talk about fire trucks, most people think of this type of fire truck. But in 1918, this is what a fire truck looked like, if they was up to date. In March of 1918, in the early morning hours, the Clark County Courthouse caught fire. By the time the fire department got it out, the interior and most of the exterior was destroyed by the massive fire. But all court records were saved, as the county had implemented a policy of storing the records in a separate location. That's when the Clark County courts and several county offices moved into Memorial Hall. Over the years, once the Clark County Historical Society was formed, it moved many times due to the growth of artifacts. In 1897, it moved into its first home, 2 small rooms on the second floor of the Clark County Courthouse. In 1900, it moved into a large room in the Bushel building known as the Relic Room. Then in 1903, it was in the East County building, which is now where a juvenile court stands. By 1924, the courthouse was rebuilt. The courthouse standing today is a mix of the old building and new materials. The entrance was changed from facing Columbia to facing limestone. Yet again, the museum outgrew its space and was having financial difficulties. And in 1925, the museum moved to the second floor of the Clark County Memorial Hall building, where it remained until 1985. Also, in 1937, the museum was judged the second finest collection of pioneer relics and other historical interest of Springfield and its surrounding areas. Besides all the other stuff that the Memorial Hall was a venue for, it was also where you could go and see the Pollock Brothers Circus, also known as the Shrine Circus. The main performance was the Springfield Symphony Orchestra, which ran in Memorial Hall from 1944 until 1985. And in 1986, it moved to North High School's auditorium. In the late 70s to the early 80s, the building was showing its age, which many people say the damage of the inside was due to the large animals like the elephants from the circus. But in 1984, the building failed to pass state codes, like the plumbing and electrical work. Many people wanted to save the building, but in 1985, voters rejected a $4 million renovation fund, which left the building deemed unsafe and too expensive to repair. The Memorial Hall finished out its scheduled events, and in September of '85, the doors closed permanently. Mid-vid quiz. In what year was Clark County founded? Answer at the end of the video. The building sat empty from 1985 till 2010. After 2.5 decades of sitting idle, the 80,000 square foot property was listed for just over $1 million. The Memorial Hall building was listed on the Springfield Registry of Historical Properties as of the original list of 1985. The National Trails and Park Recreation District purchased the Memorial Hall site for just over $800,000. And the Memorial Hall building at 94 years old was demolished in late 2010 to make room for the new ice rink. However, in 2012, the NTPRD opted to move the ice rink across the street to the lots of the former Houck complex to save money. By 2013, the NTPRD ice rink chiller was built, costing $8.5 million. And the Memorial Hall site was placed back on the market. In 2016, the NTPRD sold the 80,000 square foot lot to a Sandusky-based company for a sum of $775,000. Wow. Once all the permits passed, the $239,000 3,300 square foot Wendy's would start construction, which was at the rear of the Memorial Hall building. By the end of 2017, Wendy's was open. Even though the 94-year-old building is gone, parts of the exterior and interior live on. Let's jump back to 2010. Many items from the building was saved by the group Healthy Cities and stored and preserved at the Heritage Center. Many of the one-of-a-kind pieces of the Memorial Hall building are being used all over the city. Like the 5,500-pound Stone Eagle now sits on the top of Chiller Ice Rink. In 2012, the front columns was cut and placed on Veterans Bridge on North Fountain Avenue as a $2.4 million restoration project. The United Senior Service Center, originally located at 101 South Fountain Avenue, renovated the building at 125 Main Street, originally known as the Eagles Club. The renovation incorporated several restored pieces like marble, stained glass panels, windows, doors, light fixtures, and the iconic wooden ticket booth. In 1920, the Snyder Park Golf Course opened, and in 2014 it closed, and is now known as the Snyder Park Gardens and Arboretum, has many parts incorporated, as well as many other places around Springfield. Answer to mid-vid quiz. In the middle of our video, I asked you, in what year was Clark County founded? On March 1st, 1818, Clark County was founded and was formed from Champaign, Greene, and Madison counties, named after General George Rogers Clark of the American Revolution, who died of a stroke on February 13th, 1818. Now myself, I never got to experience any events within the building, because my dad and I didn't move to Springfield until '86, and I was 5. But for a short time in the late 80s, we did live across the street in an apartment of the Houck building. With no other kids in the building, I didn't have much to do. Couldn't play outside because it was just a sidewalk and road. So I watched a lot of TV, played with my toys, and stared out the window. Now I remembered my dad said he grew up in Springfield. That's when I remember asking my dad,
"Dad, where is that big building?"
And he would tell me stories of when his dad would take him and his siblings to see wrestling, the circus, and many other things when they had the money. Now I'm 38 and I have kids of my own and tell them stories of the past. My father died in 2015 at the age of 65 of a heart attack, but at 61 we found out he was in stage 1 of dementia, and 2 years in, the past was all he knew. Cherish your parents and the stories they tell you, because one day you're going to want to hear more. The reason I made the Memorial Hall building our first video of this new series is because it's the first set of stories I remember my dad telling me when I was a child. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a video.
Getting all hung up. up on imaginary problems. You gotta focus on what's real, man.